Hey, what is up, all you lonely watchers out there? We all love Yokai Watch, right? It has the best games, the best manga, and the best movie. Yeah, only one of the Yokai Watch movies out of the current 8 has gotten an English release. Well, actually, that statement might be a bit facetious, as on top of an official Latin American Spanish and Brazilian Portuguese dub, the second movie got an Asian English dub, which has since been lost to time. Maybe it will reappear one day, but we have the movie 2 fan dub in the meantime. What is less talked about, though, is the third movie, titled Yokai Watch the Movie, The Great Adventure of the Flying Whale and the Double World Nyan, known in English as Yokai Watch the Movie, A Whale of Two Worlds. This one would be in a bit of a unique spot, coming out in the Yokai Watch 3 era, and being the last theatrical release before Yokai Watch Shadowside would usher in a new era for the series. People hate on this third movie more than it deserves, but it still remains my favorite out of the original trilogy. And yes, I may be 8 years too late, but I've had it up to here with the slander. This is a defensive review of Yokai Watch the Movie 3. Before we start, let's get some background. It was 2015, and Level 5 wanted the Yokai Watch movie franchise to release on a yearly schedule. Akihiro Hino, the father of Yokai Watch, was in love with the idea of a fully CGI or fully live-action movie for the third installment. However, a fully CGI movie would take too long, so they had to settle for a CGI and live-action hybrid with 2D animated segments as well. The CGI in the movie was originally going to be very different, with the initial plan containing more realistic textures, such as fur for the animal yokai. They ended up going with a more streamlined style, though. This is likely so that, 1, all the models will be uniform, and 2, they could include more yokai in the movie under their time constraints. On top of this, 5 animation studios had to pool their resources to get this movie out on time, an unfortunate side effect of the industry. But this movie turned out pretty good despite its 8-month paper-to-silver screen timeline. People who pre-ordered tickets for the movie got this sweet CGI Jibanyan Dream Medal, and the movie released in theaters on December 17th, 2016 in Japan. Yeah, that's all there is to this one. Now all that's left is to watch the movie itself. And don't worry, I will put up a warning before we get into the spoiler section of this video. But for now, don't worry about it. Our story starts with Nate and Whisper listening to the news, stating how a UFO is looming over Springdale, one of the many parallels to Yokai Watch 3. Nate and all the other yokai in the area are suddenly caught off guard when the world turns material. Nate decides to investigate the cause of the shift in his world before finding a cute little critter he decides to name Koala Nyan, for some unlordly reason. Once they figure out the cause of this poor world, as they call it, is a whale yokai hovering over Springdale, Nate decides he'll take it down and reclaim his homeworld, using the newfound power of Koala Nyan, who can switch between both worlds at the boop of his nose. And that's the basic plot, which is already not as serious and implicating as the first 2 movies, but that leaves it a lot more open to just be a fun time waster that doesn't take itself too seriously. I'm not one of those people who are all, oh, it's just a kid's movie, it doesn't need a unique and interesting plot, but sometimes I just want to laugh at absurdity. And this movie definitely does that for me. I love Shadowside and Forever Friends, but this movie is in no way trying to be that. The characters are all portrayed well, as much as I wish we got that more realistic look as initially planned. The yokai are all expressive and stretchy, but they just look like plastic. And it all kind of gives me Yokai Watch Land trailer vibes. There are some differing textures here though, as the 2 robot yokai, Robanyan F and Cyborg Y, look metallic, and Mangy Mutt is, well, Mangy Mutt. The human designs look good too, being incredibly accurate, making these cartoonish people seem real, even if they can look a bit out of place compared to the standard humans. Haley cosplay is hype though, even if they do kind of shaft her in this movie. Humanoid yokai such as Enma and Zazzle, who play a smaller role this time around, got human actors for their live-action counterparts. Which is cool, but I kinda wish we got to see more of this. Besides that though, the settings are great. Seeing live-action versions of iconic locales like Nate's bedroom and Flower Road are really cool. Almost like a dream come true. They totally match the vibrant cartoon world, being a near-perfect translation. There are occasionally places that are just in the movies, but it's not too distracting, and it feels good to see Springdale come to life. They use the material world as a plot point more than you would think in this movie, with its imperfectness tripping up the characters in one way or another. I will say, though, that the characters marvel over this world a bit too much. Like, the beginning is mostly just Nate slowly meeting each of his family members and friends, being like, oh, is that the real person? I mean, after like the 6th time, the shock value should have depleted. To be fair though, these characters can have exaggerated, or in the case of Amy, completely altered personalities compared to their anime counterparts. And another thing that's a tad annoying is how much Whisper already knows about this world. Explaining to Nate what pores are and how that's a thing humans have. Despite the fact that Nate is a human already? This ties into one of the bigger complaints about this movie besides the juvenile story, and it's the fact that, canonically, it just doesn't make any sense. Why is there a real world to begin with? I get it. They could have written the inclusion of this real world a little better, but it's not the most distracting thing in the world, and they quickly abandon the notion of this being the real world pretty quickly, and instead treat it like an alternate world or reality. The jokes are pretty alright in this movie, with some of the later ones really making me chuckle. And speaking of, I will be talking about spoilers and my more specific thoughts on the later acts in the movie for the rest of this video. I would highly recommend this movie if you're a fan of the more zany style of the Yokai Watch anime, as opposed to the first 2 installments. This is your final warning. Spoiler talk in 3, 2, 1. What in the infinite inferno is this plot? So Jibanyan, upon seeing the whale, points out how he saw a similar looking sign on the building across from his candy shop, which the party comes to find is a hospital in this world. This is where we get to meet the main antagonist, Kanami Minami. It seems she's connected to the whale yokai, but it takes tracking her down and sticking tattletale on her to get the full story. Minami was fond of ballet ever since she was a kid, but it all ended on the day she got hit by a truck. Lame human. She's left hospitalized with 2 broken legs and the possibility she will never get to do ballet again. We learn later from her instructor, though, that this is not entirely true, as she's only not recovering because she's not sticking to a rehabilitation schedule. In any case, though, it's time to summon QB, Venoct, and Robanyan F to assist in the search. Finally, Nate uses the powerful yokai he has access to. Once they find her, though, Minami easily overwhelms Venoct. How? I have no idea. This must be some really powerful trauma. Meanwhile, Hovernyan, who told us earlier in the movie that he would be on the case, is now in the Enma Palace informing the Lord himself of the situation, but he's unable to attend to this issue, as one of the side effects of this world is he'll just break into dance randomly. Okay. Enma still offers his sword to assist the cause, and Hovernyan returns to the human world for Nate to use it against Minami.
Yes!
Nate, chill. You think you just killed a kid. Relax. This pushes the dark energy out of her, which finds its way into the whale, turning him into Narwhale. QB and Venoct decide to transform into their ascended forms of Dark QB and Illuminact, which I assume these were different yokai, but I guess they're not in this movie? They get eaten up right away, though, with Narwhale spitting up their name tags, which is a gag I really like. It's basically impossible to hurt Narwhale in the poor world, so if they wanted any chance of beating him, our heroes would need to use Kowalanyan to their advantage. Insert poorly written fart joke, because it wouldn't be a Yokai Watch movie without one. But the Yokai Bazooka does not assist. Instead, transforming Narwhale into this thing, which Nate names Whaleman. Real clever there. His claim to fame is shooting bubbles that can turn any human or yokai into a fish. which is also carried over in his Yokai Watch 3 appearance as a boss, which is just... I love it so much. Sometimes I let my yokai get turned into fish on purpose because I love seeing them flop around. Whisper doesn't turn into a fish, though. He's a straight-up fish-whisper hybrid. I need a plush of this creature. Please, Bandai, it can't be too late. Our heroes need to bring things back into the human world, but Kowalanyan just so happened to get caught up in a woman throwing water, which scared him away. They established this earlier, but Kowalanyan is deathly afraid of water. And I had no idea this was a thing, but the woman is performing something called Ushimizu, a Japanese practice of throwing water at the ground in order to keep the area cooled down and clean. Thanks, Yokai Watch, you teach me something new every day. He's chased into the fair by our lovable rule follower Nate, who still buys a ticket into it, before finding Whale Man terrorizing the locals and growing even larger. Usapion, though, comes to the rescue with a bit-by-bit weekly tank, which is just awesome, and it makes me wish that they made these products as actual merch. Also, where do you just carry these on you? Why do you have so many? Where do you fit them? When it fails, though, Usapion proposes using this concoction made by the insane human Haley, to which Robanyan F obliges. Ultimate Robanyan is born, who's able to vanquish Whale Man. See how dirty they did Haley here? Her invention is responsible for saving the day, yet she's only on screen for like 3 seconds, and I'm not kidding. She's literally only here for this one scene. Nate talks to Minami about never giving up before being sent back to his own world, but not without one more piece of baggage. Oh, and one more piece of nightmare fuel.
さっきから何言ってんですか?
I feel like Minami's arc was kinda weirdly paced. Like they gave her exposition way too fast, and they really don't develop her naturally. The theme of never giving up on yourself is never really handled that well either. Her whole arc just feels like out-of-place tonal whiplash compared to the rest of the film. But that's what makes it so funny. I feel bad saying I laughed when she got hit by a car, but it's true. It just comes out of nowhere, as opposed to the emotional moments in the first 2 films feeling more natural and building into the climax better. The cohesion is broken constantly, and you have no idea where this movie is gonna go next, which is understandably a negative for some, but not for me. If you want to subject yourself to this movie, though, I truly believe watching it with someone who isn't a Yokai Watch fan is the best way. Seeing people try to comprehend what's going on and where the story is heading is almost more entertaining than the actual film itself. And while movie 3 may not be the best Yokai Watch movie, it could easily provide the most entertainment value in other ways. I'd give this movie a solid A rank as far as Yokai Watch movies go, and probably a C rank in the wider world of film. I hope I changed your mind on this movie if you didn't like it before. I have given voice to the vocal minority, and if you're not a fan of this movie, I hope you'll give it another fair shake with my point of view. Anyway, what movie in the Yokai Watch franchise should I look at next? Make sure to let me know in the comments, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye, my lonely watchers.